It's hard to try and recapture the magic of a game as iconic as Starfox 64. That's very obvious. Not because the mechanics or gameplay were incredibly complex or even that unique, no, but because of its style and substance. Starfox 64 had the impossible task of trying to replicate the expansive and wonderful nature of space dogfighting. A vast galaxy being threatened by a galactic evil doctor needing to be defended by a ragtag group of fighter jet mercenaries that are also animals, each with their own personalities and interests. That's a tall order to replicate when all you had were 64 bits. But Nintendo somehow pulled it off by creating a game with so much charm, charisma, and iconic characters through great writing, a haunting environment, and impressive voice acting, and such limited technology in 1997. So when I heard this classic was getting remade, I was very skeptical. I'm not the biggest fan of one-to-one remakes solely because they do a disservice to both the original games and the remakes. I am always going to prefer when a series just decides to do a completely new entry and tries new things. These new things can and might fail, but at the end of the day, who cares? You tried something new. When you do a one-to-one remake, you have to make sure you're both staying true to the source material and creating something refreshing, albeit not new entirely, because people do not like their old games to be changed. Tell me how I know. I'm a huge Legend of Zelda fan. Majora's Mask 3D is the biggest example of such an issue. Its biggest issue isn't that it's a one-to-one remake, but that it tried to stay true to the original game and tried something new at the same time. This almost never works unless it's quality of life updates, which I guess you could argue that the Majora's Mask 3D changes were quality of life updates, but they essentially completely changed the fighting mechanics to the boss fights, which a lot of people did not really like. So going into this game, I was already incredibly cynical. However, I was pleasantly surprised with the Starfox remake for the Nintendo Switch 2. It managed to keep that same charm, albeit some questionable choices, which I'll talk about them later, but at its foundation, this remake is a one-to-one remake. Same levels, same gameplay, same mechanics, same story, same charming characters. Honestly, it's just the same game, but with an updated look. However, some of the questionable choices for the game that kind of had me scratching my head kind of really brought down my score for this remake. One thing I loved about Starfox 64 was the voice acting. The muffled lines from the characters express so much emotion and energy that hearing their voice lines uncompressed just feels wrong.
We did it! All units, disengage. Enjoy the fireworks, everybody.
Communicating through comms shouldn't be clear, especially in space, I would imagine. So I truly didn't understand this choice for the voice acting. We also lost some of my favorite voice lines for the remake, such as the Shogun screaming his lungs out upon defeat.
Got you, little freak!
Stylistic choices like these really did a disservice to the remake because, again, it shouldn't be too challenging to replicate this with modern technology. Even with my years of experience of doing amateur work when it comes to video editing and audio editing, I'm sure I can replicate a voice line to sound like it's coming through a really old school comm speaker. I don't know. Some of that charm from the Starfox 64 kind of did lend from a lot of the 80s type of retro futuristic type of media that we would see. Guardians of the Galaxy, for example, the movies really do play a lot on this type of technology, which kind of am a little upset that they didn't continue on with this stylistic choice in the remake. However, besides that, that's where my gripes really end, which is why I said I'm pleasantly surprised with this remake. It's the same game we grew up loving, Not much has changed in terms of gameplay, mechanics, or story. Not even the game feel has changed that much, which speaks volumes to how good the original game was. If it's not broken, don't fix it. And that's a motto I live by. They did, however, add a more expanded multiplayer aspect to the game. You can play online with strangers in a sort of capture the flag type of gameplay where you're teamed up and put against another team where the mission is to capture treasure and bring it to your base before the enemy. At first, it's a bit confusing with how crowded the UI gets with all the information on screen. But once you get it, it's actually a pretty good time. However, my original issue with remakes is that when they do try to do something new or different, I always feel like they tend to hold back out of fear of criticism for changing things up too much, and especially for cult classics such as Starfox 64. And that's why I felt this multiplayer to be a bit limited. I would have loved this Starfox game to expand its multiplayer even further. I don't know, something like a battle royale type of dogfighting game would have been incredible. And even to add to more of that, adding another story element or adding, I don't want to say DLC, but an expanded story to the main game would have done wonders for this game. I know, it's really hard to try and change a classic like this when you can just make a new game. But still, if this is going to be your new Starfox entry and not give us anything else for quite some time, it's okay to throw new things out there for older fans. Overall, it's very hard for me to truly adore or hate a remake because it's just that, a remake of something that I already like or don't like. It's very hard to get rid of your biases and get rid of your expectations when there's already a lot of history with you with that piece of media. There's so little ways to improve a game that already is good, but there's so many ways to ruin it as well, depending on what it is that you choose to change, add, or take away. Overall, the game plays exactly the same. It feels exactly the same. I wouldn't even say that it being on the newest generation of consoles adds that much to it. It's honestly the same game with a few cutscenes put in between the missions, which does add a little bit to the story element of the game, but it's just the same game with a fresh coat of paint. I'm a big fan of Starfox 64, so I was already gonna enjoy this remake. But as I said, my main issue and my main gripes with it is that they didn't try new things enough. Sure, the multiplayer is a good addition. Sure, the edit cutscenes really do add to it. Even the story on James McCloud to this game is very welcome. Still, I would have enjoyed to actually play some missions as James McCloud. Being able to play as the original Starfox crew with Peppy, Pigma, and James would have been incredible. Even so, if it was just kind of like more of the same. I don't know. I guess what I'm really trying to say is that I cannot wait for an actual new Starfox game in the series, with a new expanded story, with a new type of gameplay, with added mechanics, with a more, I don't know, modern take to the series. Is something that I really want, and I'm really hoping that comes sooner rather than later, because I really hope this is in their Starfox game for the next 5 years. But folks, you let me know down in the comments below what you thought of the Starfox remake for the Nintendo Switch 2. Did you enjoy it? Did you kind of agree with me that it's more of the same with not a lot much added to it? It's kind of playing so much. It's relying too heavy on the nostalgic factor for me, which is something that I never thought I would admit to, because I'm a Legend of Zelda fan. I'm over here crying my heart out, crying my eyeballs out, begging Nintendo to already give us Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD for the Switch 2. Like, I thrive on nostalgia. But this, I don't know. It kind of felt like, you know, like Nintendo really went into this saying like, hey, at least it's prettier. That's not enough for me anymore. But it is what it is. But let me know down in the comments below what you thought of Starfox, the remake for the Nintendo Switch 2. Folks, I've been True Fernie. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe. If you didn't like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs down, because believe it or not, every single bit helps. Links to my socials are down below. Please make sure to follow me on Blue Sky, where I spend most of my waking hours talking about anything and everything that might interest you as my viewer. But folks, please take care of one another, but most importantly, take care of yourself. Peace.